That anime and Godzilla are two of Japan's biggest pop cultural exports. It's kind of crazy to them why it's taken this long to merge those two things together. It feels like it watches like a natural fit, Godzilla as an anime, but obviously it took all this time for it to come together the way it did. What was your initial thoughts when you knew you were gonna go through with this project? You knew it was going to be the scale that it was. What were your initial thoughts coming into it, knowing that, okay, I'm finally going to bring these two great Japanese things together for the world?
ゴジラはずっと、今回がアニメで初なんですけれども、ずっとアニメ化のチャンスは伺ってたんですが、今回CG の技術が非常に最近進歩が凄まじくてですね、今の CG の技術であれば、僕らがかっこいいと思えるようなゴジラをしっかりとしたアニメで作って、で、お客さんに喜んでもらえるんじゃないかなというそういう自信ができたので、それで今回このプロジェクトをローンチしました。
Of course, this is the first time that Godzilla has been made into an anime, and there's been a lot of times when they were asked to do this. But CG has finally caught up, and the development has been good for the past few years, so they finally had the confidence to ensure to make a cool Godzilla, a proper movie that the fans will enjoy. So finally, the anime Godzilla has come to be.
It is the perfect time for it. It feels like you've been waiting for something for so long. It finally arrives, and now you're like, oh, what took them so long? And then you actually watch the product, and you're like, oh, 2018. This time right here in history, this is the perfect time to have it because the technology, it's really there. I'm assuming, and I'm imagining Godzilla played a big part in your life growing up. What was, your first encounter, what was your first exposure to Godzilla like?
僕が8歳の時ですかね。なのでもう30年前ですけれども、当時ゴジラのゴジラ対ビオランテという作品があるんですが、それを見て、とても怖い思い出がありました。で、日本人ならゴジラは誰でも知ってるタイトルなんですけど、今30年経ってまさか自分がこのゴジラをプロデュースするとは思っていなかったので、非常に夢が叶ったなと思ってます。
I first saw Godzilla when I was 8 years old, about 30 years ago. The first movie was Godzilla vs. Violante, if you're familiar with that film. And it made such a big impact on me. And of course, Godzilla has been loved by the Japanese for so long, about more than 30 years. So now that I couldn't imagine before that I'd be able to do this kind of work with Godzilla as a main character.
And isn't it always great when something that you're a fan of is being, something's being created, being made, being led by someone who's almost just as big a fan of it as you are, and it really comes across when you watch it, that lifetime affinity you have with a monster that is Godzilla and everything that comes with it. And we're just truly so appreciative of that and your work. Adi, the same letter by letter can be said about you and Castlevania when you watch Castlevania. Now, like Godzilla, there have been other people who've tried to take it from the video game and make something else out of it. What was your level of confidence, coming into this saying, I'm gonna interpret it in this way? It took, critics and fans just absolutely fell in love with it the first time they saw it. It's really, something that's been kind of like a cultural revolution now. But the first, your first touch point with Castlevania as a younger person, what was that like? And then your first, obviously, decision to interpret it this way, what was the decision making around that?
A lot of questions. So first off, I'm going to tell you what it feels like. It feels like Goku, like I'm becoming Goku. But I've been dropped into Super Smash Brothers, and it's not a fair fight for anybody else. I'm a PS1 guy. Who out here is a PS1 person? Right? So if you played Castlevania on the PlayStation 1, then you played what game? Symphony of the Night, there we go. And And yeah, I mean, that entire era of gaming was just so groundbreaking, right? Because we were all of a sudden like going from sprites into 3 dimensions. Obviously, like the Metroidvania genre took 2 giant leaps forward because of the PlayStation 1. And that wasn't my first entry into Castlevania, but I feel like that was around the time when I was becoming like a conscious human. Also known as a teenager. So, yeah.
And you know, season 1, as I was saying earlier, much beloved by so many people here and all.
I don't know if they actually liked it. Did you guys like season 1?
There's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of excitement for season 2, obviously. When you sit back and you review your work in season 1, and then you take on the task that is making it just as exciting, just as action filled, and hopefully as beloved as with season 2. You know, what do you go to inspire you, to continue to inspire you, to make sure that there's a lot of fresh and exciting things into the new season?
Well, the interesting thing about the way this show was made, right? Aside from the production process, which I got into and stuff, like this show was made by fans. It was made by fans for fans, right? There was no agenda here other than a bunch of people who loved Castlevania got in a room together and said, hey, we want to make a Castlevania show. And, season 2 is a continuation of the story of season 1, so we're really bringing this narrative into a full circle.
And when something like that happens, and when you're in that room, this is the one thing I've always been so curious about, right? So you're in that room, you're sitting next to all these other Castlevania fans. Is it just what I imagine it to be, which is just this great experience, this great big party of ideas being thrown one way and back, and you guys are just talking about what we should do next, where these characters should go? Can you paint us a little picture of what it's like in that room with these people you trust the most with the story?
So before we got greenlit or after we got greenlit?
After, when it was
very different vibe in the room.
After, when you had the backing.
So once we had Netflix, it's like a little family. It's the best way to describe it, right? It's like a little family around a dinner table.
And
we spent a lot of time on Skype with each other.
This family around the digital dinner table on Skype, you guys have obviously produced such a great season 1 that's got a lot of people very excited about season 2. I didn't want to put you on the spot here, but I hear you do have something. You did come here with another empty hand, right? Yeah, a little surprise for people, right?
I did not come here empty-handed.
This is all you, buddy. It's your show.
All right. So, a couple facts about me, right? I grew up between Hong Kong and Singapore. Woo! So I'm pretty much a local. And the one thing that bothered me, as a fellow nerd, trailers would drop, news stories would drop. There would be, but it would never happen in this part of the world. It would always happen in the US. Right? Like, alien invasions always happen in New York. Why? Like, I'm cool with Thanos coming and taking over the world, but come on, just come here. So, I didn't just come with like a little teaser. I came with the entire trailer. And check this out. This is the worldwide premiere of this trailer. Right here, right now. So I can keep, teasing it and what, and I should probably do that for another second just to kind of build the anticipation. But again, thank you all for supporting the show. Like, This was the stuff that I got made fun of as a kid for. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't walk around with a power glove when I was 16. Like, I couldn't talk about, you know, anime and video games and stuff. That wasn't cool. And now all of a sudden, we live in a world where this is part of the collective culture. It's part of the collective consciousness. Right? And we're talking about a global mythology here. A shared understanding. So, without further ado, the world premiere of the trailer for Castlevania Season 2